Good day, I am William Theo and this is PTV News Now. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. visited the farmers and fishermen in San Jose, Occidental Mindoro. The president presided over the distribution of assistance to 2,000 beneficiaries, including 11 units of pumps and engines, 2 units of combined rice harvesters, and 4-wheel drive tractors from the Philippine Center for Post-Harvest Development and Mechanism, and more. Marcos Jr. assures that government is doing everything of the El Niño calamity. Several localities in Mindoro have each declared a state of calamity in their communities due to El Niño. Meanwhile, a powerful sandstorm blew across eastern Libya, disrupting air traffic and shutting down airports. Traffic at airports in Benghazi and Tobruk was suspended until further notice. Local media said, showing images of runways buried in sand. Authorities in the east announced as early as Sunday and Monday that Tuesday would be public holidays owing to bad weather conditions. Among the areas where a state of alert has been declared is Derna. Authorities have also called on law enforcement to limit road traffic and movement in areas where the sandstorm has caused poor visibility. In Tobruk, Al-Baida and Ajdabia, people were reportedly forced to stay at home as the skies turned yellow. In other news, marijuana is a rare consensus issue in politically divided America, with polls showing that 88% of Americans support at least partially legalizing the drug. But cannabis advocates say neither of the leading presidential candidates are capitalizing on shifting attitudes. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns reports.
Nearly 3/4 of Americans live in states where marijuana is legal for medicinal purposes. Half the population live where it's also allowed recreationally. But cannabis remains entirely illegal under federal law, where it's classified alongside heroin and LSD as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. The overwhelming majority of American voters who think that should be changed makes cannabis a ripe opportunity for presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump, especially among young voters, according to Scotty Smart, who's a community organizer with the civic engagement group, the New Georgia Project.
A lot of people don't understand policy. A lot of people don't know how policies affect their day-to-day lives. I think cannabis is an issue that ignites and excites young people to pay attention.
At the National Cannabis Festival and Washington Policy Summit earlier this month, founder Caroline Phillips said neither Biden nor Trump have delivered.
For both of them, one thing they have in common is that their track records on cannabis have been inconsistent and incremental. We've heard promises from both administrations, neither of which have panned out in full.
Under Biden, the Department of Health and Human Services recommended changing marijuana to a lighter drug classification, rescheduling it instead of making it legal, which would be descheduling.
The current White House's policy on marijuana remains slightly unclear. They have given us great signals that they're willing to shift towards descheduling, but most likely rescheduling. However, we haven't quite seen the action to back up their words.
In 2018, then President Trump said he would, quote, probably support efforts to end federal prohibitions on marijuana and leave its legality up to the states. That legislation never got out of Congress. Trump told a Newsmax TV interviewer last year that studies show marijuana, quote, does significant damage, and yet, from a voting standpoint, it's a pretty popular thing.
Trump's track record on cannabis has been inconsistent at best. We've heard him both say that people who sell drugs in the illicit market should be jailed and even put to death, I think with some of the scarier rhetoric around that. But we've also seen him pardon people who've been locked up for cannabis.
U.S. voters' shifting attitudes about marijuana show in Gallup polling, where last year 70% of adults supported legalization. That's more than double the number who said they favored legalization in 2000. Morgan Fox is political director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
This is an issue that is increasingly important to voters, particularly young voters, and any candidate that actually wants to get ahead, whether it's in the presidential election, in Congress, or state legislatures or local legislators, if they ignore this issue, it's going to be at their peril.
Younger voters animated by legalizing marijuana are hoping for Biden administration action on cannabis before the November election. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
This is William Theo. Stay informed, get ahead, get the news right here.